What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Brushfire Project. Today's video is brought to you by Alp. We're going to be going over the Hydra 635 thermal weapon sight from DNT Optics. Let's get into it. Alright, so we're going to start off with some of the features and specs that make this unit a winner, and then we'll also talk about some of the stuff that I think could have been done a little bit better. Full disclosure, this is not my unit. This is a friend of mine. It was his first thermal optic that he bought, and he called me up, said, hey, I think you should do a review on this. And I'd never actually heard of DNT Optics, but I quickly started researching them a little bit, and I got excited because it seems like they've got a lot packaged into this unit for the price. And so I was like, yeah, let's get hands on it and see what we can come up with. So I'm going to do my best to give you guys a totally accurate review. I've got no skin in this game one way or the other. I didn't buy this unit, and it was not given to me by the company. So I'm just going to give you my honest thoughts. Starting off with the specs, it's running a 640 by 512 pixel resolution with a 12 micron 18 millikelvin or sub 18 millikelvin sensor and a 1024 by 768 pixel micro OLED screen. Looking at a 35 millimeter objective lens and an advertised runtime from the website of 4 hours. Although I will say I got closer to about 3 hours, just a little bit over 3 hours. But that is off of a single 18650 battery, which is pretty sweet. Because those are pretty ubiquitous now. So if you have an extra one laying around, you can throw that in a pocket and you know, be able to swap that battery because it's not internal. Along with that, the knob for the battery is really easily accessible and easy to find. So I think if you had to swap a battery in the dark during a hunt, you probably wouldn't have any issues with it. But that was never something I ran into. I never hunted for more than about 2.5 to 3 hours straight. Does have an IP67 waterproof rating, so that's pretty cool too. All right, next going over some of the features that are pretty cool with this unit. It can be run as a standalone, like I have it set up here, or as a clip-on in front of a day scope. It's got 4 color palettes. It's got a white hot, black hot, red hot, which is kind of your predator vision, and then it has something they call iron hot, which is kind of a pinkish purplish hue. That's a pretty cool one too, because there was a couple times when I was zeroing, especially in clip-on mode, that the white hot just wasn't giving me, the white hot or black hot wasn't really giving me the color differential that I needed to be able to accurately zero, and that iron hot gave me a little bit of a different perspective, and I was able to zero pretty well with that, so that's cool. You got several reticle options and colors. It also has 2 reticles that are first focal plane. One is MOA based and one is mil based. So if you did need to, you know, use a holdover when you're shooting a little bit further, you could do that with this unit. Although I will say I probably wouldn't feel super comfortable shooting with this unit past about 200 yards. It has a base magnification of 1.5x with a digital zoom of up to 6x, and it has a AI enhanced zoom feature. It's the best way I can really describe it, where when you get to 6x, it actually crisps that image up just a little bit, and it is noticeable. You'll see it in some of the video here that it's actually more crisp on 6x than on 4.5x, which I thought was pretty cool. Has manual or recoil initiated recording, which is pretty sweet, and it does do audio as well, and the audio is actually pretty decent for an internal unit, better than some of the other units I've seen. Has a one-shot zero feature, which ended up looking more like about 3 shots for me, but it was still really easy to zero, didn't have any issues with that. It also has a standby mode, so if you just click once it's powered on, if you just click the power button one time, it goes into standby mode and you're saving your battery. It turns off that screen, and you can extend your battery life by using that. So some pretty cool features there, and now we'll get into some of the stuff that maybe they could have done better. All right, talking about some of the downsides of this unit, I will say the clip-on mode kind of sucks. It's not great. You can use it, and it has a ocular focus and an objective focus, so you can get it nice and crisp to your optic. However, when you start zooming in with your 1:6 or 1:8, 1:10, whatever you're rocking, you do start to lose resolution really quick as you zoom in on those pixels. So not the greatest for clip-on in that sense. It also has a fairly sensitive focus range when you're using a clip-on. When it's in standalone mode, I did not notice it being nearly as sensitive to having this objective lens perfectly focused. But when it's in clip-on mode, you really got to adjust that. You know, if you're shooting 50 or you're looking at something at 50 meters and then you're trying to see what something is at 150 meters, you really have to play with that objective focus to get it dialed in just right. So that was a little bit of a pain. I did use it in clip-on mode a little bit, but I ended up deciding it was better to just run it in standalone mode because it's a lot more crisp when you get up to 6x, and it just performs better all around. Not to mention, it's way, way, way lighter. This is a pretty lightweight unit, and this rifle, as you see it here, is super easy to handle and carry around in the field, especially if you're carrying a tripod around too. So yeah, that's kind of my take on the whole clip-on mode, but it is very cool that it has that feature at all for the price point that this unit comes in at. Another thing that is kind of frustrating is it only records for 20 seconds at a time, and that includes 10 seconds before you take your shot or click the record button, and then 10 seconds after. So if you're going to record something, make sure you're getting some of the footage you already want, and then about halfway through, click that button or take your shot, obviously, and it'll record for 10 seconds afterwards. As far as I can tell, there's not a way to change that to increase the time that it's going to record, and there's not a way to change that in manual mode where it only starts recording once you click the button. You're always going to get that 10 seconds before, 10 seconds after. Another thing that's kind of frustrating is you cannot start a manual recording when you're in auto mode, when it's in that recoil initiated mode. So if you want to take a video of something that you're seeing and you are in the recoil initiated mode, you're going to have to go into the settings, switch it over to manual record, then hit your record button to get that recording without taking a shot. That can be kind of frustrating, but it's really not too, it only takes about 10 seconds to switch it over. It's pretty intuitive, but it is kind of annoying that you can't just click the record button and start recording when you're in the recoil initiated mode. So that's a little bit frustrating. Other than that, the only other thing that I had is the mount. The mounting system it's okay for what it is, but I did have one of the screws come loose at one point. I didn't lose zero, but even with the screws for the mount tightened down and torqued to the recommended 30 inch-pounds, I still had one of them come loose during the course of zeroing and a couple of hunts. So that's suboptimal in my opinion. I'd probably want to get a QD mount that I'm not worried about, you know, coming loose whenever when I'm shooting or whatnot. So that's something to be mindful of, but not a huge deal breaker. All right, so final thoughts on this one. Overall, pretty solid unit, pretty decent. It is made in China, full disclosure there. So if you're a hardcore, you know, die-hard, American-made only guy, then this probably isn't the unit for you. That being said, the fit and finish is nice, and like I said before, the features are pretty decent, especially for a unit at this price point. So Right now, with the tariffs going into effect, I think this one's running about $2,500. You can get a 10% off discount on their website. But, you know, I don't think there's really another unit out there that can do everything this does as well as this one does at that price point. The ones I'm comparing it to mostly are the ATN Thor scopes and the Armasight thermal optics. And those are okay, but I think they lack a lot of the features that this one does, and I also don't think that they have the clarity that this one does, especially when you get up to that 6x digital zoom and that AI enhanced zoom kicks in. It's noticeably clearer than those optics are. Another huge advantage I'd say over those optics would be that it has an external 18650 battery. Whereas those units have an internal battery, which can be pretty frustrating. If you're on a hunt, you start getting that low battery indicator, you know that you're going to be limited on how long you can stay out. Whereas this one, you pop an extra 18650 battery in your pocket, and you can run this thing for, you know, more than 6 hours. And if you kick it into standby mode, you might even be able to extend that more. So that's a pretty sweet feature. I think this one does outperform those optics. So would I recommend this to a friend? Yeah. Definitely. If I had somebody who was trying to get into the thermal game and, you know, they didn't want to drop $4,000 to $5,000 on a really high quality optic, I think this one checks all the boxes, and there's nothing about it that is a deal breaker for me. I'd probably give it a rating of like 3.5 out of 5 stars, mostly for the downsides that I already talked about. Would I personally buy this one? Probably not, just because I do prefer to run my thermal optics in clip-on mode, because I don't want to have a dedicated weapon system for my thermal optic. That being said, this is a super lightweight and handy setup, and so it makes it really nice when you're walking around at night, especially if you're carrying a tripod or something. If you need to just pop the gun up so you can take a quick look at something, it's easy to handle. You're not going to get very fatigued because it's very well balanced with the optic this far back, and it's just a lightweight, clean setup. So those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Like I said, I've got no skin in this game one way or the other. I'm just trying to give you guys an honest review. And hopefully this helps if you've been looking at this one to purchase. Let me know down in the comments also if you have any other videos you'd like me to work on or anything you'd like me to review, and I'll do my best to get that going. Definitely take feedback from y'all as far as what kind of content we're trying to put out. So appreciate it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, train hard.